So, my guest today is Marek Schejbal, and full disclosure, Marek and I are old friends. We go back many years. We both live in Poland, and over the years, I've kind of watched his career change, expand, move in a different direction. And I thought it'd be wonderful to have him come along and share his experience with all of you in terms of, what was behind the shifts in what he did. As you'll soon hear, he went from the corporate environment to a consulting environment, and so on, and also what kinds of hurdles. And we'll be talking about things like COVID and Brexit, which of course, in Marek's line of business, line of work, where he works across borders, both of these were real, really difficult challenges to overcome. And I'm really dying to hear the nitty-gritty of how he overcame those and moved forward. And as always, the aim is to provide actionable evidence, if you like, or information for all the entrepreneurs out there who have questions, who are a little bit worried about what they want to do and how they're going to do it, and whether they're going to be successful and how they're going to deal with challenges. And I think Marek's journey is a great lesson to everyone in that regard. So I will shut up now for a change. I always talk too much. And welcome, Marek. Marek, hello.
Hello. Good to be here with you.
Great, I'd say great to see you. And thank you. I know you're extremely busy as always, but thank you for taking the time. So let's kick off really with a bit of background. You started in the advertising field. In fact, I think it was just out of that when we first met. So talk us through where that was, where you started, and how you got to Poland, where we met.
Sure. Well, actually, it started in South Africa, because I sort of formative years, I grew up in South Africa, and first, studies there, and first jobs, and got into the advertising industry, basically in Johannesburg, for an agency, and then I moved myself to the UK. From South Africa. UK is where I was born, and I did that at the age of 27, and then started looking for a job in London within that industry. At the time, it was called, advertising was divided into above and below the line. Above the line was basically commission-bearing advertising, so radio, TV, etc. And below the line was literally everything else. So sales, promotion, PR, direct marketing, which wasn't really around then, but everything else was in below the line. And I joined one of the largest agencies in the UK, and sort of worked my way up sort of the ranks to sort of senior levels in that agency. And then this was back end of the 80s. Early 90s in the UK, which was going through a severe recession, and literally that, sort of that sector was hit very hard, because, when there's a downturn, advertising research budgets take a hit immediately. So I started looking around, well, what to do, because the market was extremely volatile.
Right.
And at the time...
Can I just pause you there, please, Marek? Yeah. Because there are a few things that you said which I really want to know a little bit more about. I'd forgotten, I'm sure you told me, but I'd forgotten you'd actually started your advertising journey in South Africa. But clearly there was something about that industry that appealed to you. I mean, you started there, and then you went to the UK and stayed in it. What was it that appealed?
I suppose to a degree, my dad was an artist, so there was there was a lot of creativity in the house, and I think advertising, the lure was that there was it was a connection of dealing with people, because I was actually on the client service side, so I was dealing with clients. But every project that had to be delivered, I had to work with designers, with graphic design teams, and I really relished that.
Right.
And I found that I actually could speak to them and have a certain common language, and maybe it was sort of with the background, and particularly the artistic background, my dad. So,
Right. That's really fascinating, because what you just described is a combination of stakeholders, so your clients with whom you're speaking, but also teams within the organization, and then bringing in perhaps something that you inherited from your dad, the artistic element, and making it into kind of mixing it all up and making it into something that worked. And it clearly did work, because you moved up in the organization, so your output was recognized. What did you learn from that process that you could say, yeah, that's something I picked up there and I found it really useful since leaving the industry?
I mean, working with teams for sure, because sort of moving up in that industry, in the end I was running a company with different divisions, and the delivery still was communication solutions. So it's very much working with people, and the one thing I found, particularly coming to Poland, is my style of leadership was one that was a bit of sink or swim. So I worked with people on the basis of giving them a project or deliverables that we agreed, and then it was deliver on that, and if I don't hear from you, I expect you will deliver that on the deadline.
Right.
And I think particularly in Poland, where this was in the 90s, I came in 94, where there hadn't been private enterprise until the fall of communism. So people were yearning actually to be able to do something themselves.
Right.
And I think that leadership style then worked with actually what people wanted to do. They wanted to show they wanted to show their own individuality and what they can deliver.
Right. And I guess these were young people, and I want to hear more about this, but I also want to point out that already before you came to Poland, in your industry, you were facing a major challenge, and that was economic, yes, the recession. And you said people's budgets were going down. So how did you adjust? How did your organization adjust to those? Your budgets were down, presumably, clients were spending less. Yeah, maybe some of your clients stopped spending anything at all. What happened within your organization, and how did you adjust mentally to those changes?
Well, the thing is, the first organization I joined in the UK, I left after a number of years, and joined a smaller outfit at a more senior level, which I didn't realize at the time was already in financial troubles. And sort of less than a year after joining them, I was made redundant with a number of other people, because they couldn't actually survive. Redundant in the UK, I was on the dole, and I realized that actually the only way to get off the dole is to be able to earn what I did before, because the dole actually was sufficient in terms of covering outgoings. Had a small child at the time, a young wife and young child, and I then created a communications concept which was sort of novel, different, that was available in the marketplace, and I started then going to interviews with that concept. And it was a way to open the door, because I wasn't going in looking for a job. I was actually going in with something that could deliver revenue.
Right. Okay. So here's you being innovative. You've got a young family. Your employer's just gone bust. You've been made redundant. It's all happening together. And the recession is on. So what you've done is you've created something and said, here's the value I can bring to the industry, which is brilliant, because it does take resilience to do that. Anyway, please go on.
Well, no, and then I got a job with actually sort of one of the founders of what was then called sort of below the line advertising in the UK. I mean, sort of a guru in the industry. And he took me on because of this concept that I could actually open doors to business. But, this is where you start thinking slightly differently when you join a company. I didn't at the time yet. But they went under 3 months later.
Oh, good.
And they took me on because they thought it would be a quick turnaround. I could deliver business within 3 months. And I said, well, hang on a sec. I mean, it's not how it works. And they went under, and they were eventually bought out by some other organization. And I ended up in some office sort of in Soho with the remnants of the company, doing, whatever it was. I mean, I think we were all just treading water at the time. And I was actually going out to interviews with advertising agencies. And in the interview, I was saying to these people, well, before we actually go any further, I want to know that you're financially stable. And these
Not
people
surprised.
and they're saying, you've got the audacity to come in here for an interview and ask us this question. I said, well, if you can't answer the question, then there's no point in continuing.
Right.
So I was actually based in this office in Soho, ironically on Poland Street. And
Maybe that was a sign from the universe.
Yeah, and I saw an ad to set up a below-the-line agency for a regional network in Poland. And because I had Polish roots, I thought, why not? I mean, the UK really is up the Swanee right now. So let's see. And I got the job.
Yeah.
And then it was like, and ironically, I actually went for an interview in Greece and Athens at the same time for a similar role, running an agency there. And I was offered both jobs, but because of the Polish roots, I took the one in Poland.
Right. Which is when we met, or we met soon after that.
Yeah. So I came over with my family, and then started in the industry in Poland.
Right. So now you're starting something fresh in an area where you've never done business before, but you're bringing a huge amount of experience with you. Did you find that? I mean, what were your biggest challenges, if you like? Superimposing your experience on what you've already told us, it was a very different economic business culture when you arrived. What were the challenges?
The challenges, the biggest challenges really were that I was growing a business that clients understood what I was doing, international clients, because I was dealing with international clients. They actually understood the offer of below the line advertising. In other words, something that complements the the above the line advertising strategy. So in other words, you're on TV, but there's no point in being TV if you're not on a shelf.
Right.
So we were then supporting products getting on shelf, communicating on shelf, so point of sale materials, promotions, etc. It's just that there wasn't anybody in Poland that actually had that experience. So building a team, I had to find people from completely different spheres to join a group that I was building. And so from a client service point of view, it was training people from scratch. But from a creativity point of view, in other words, delivering actually the creative product, which was in the end what we were charging for, there weren't any designers who understood what we're doing either. So I brought a mate of mine over from the UK who's a creative director in London. And, he came over in the first 3 weeks that I was in Poland. And I said to him, look, Mark, come over for, a few weeks to help me out, because at the moment, I'm taking part in all sorts of pitches, but I cannot really deliver what we need to do. You know what to do, and hopefully we can work with the people around. He in the end stayed 3 years because there was just so much to do. But we built a fantastic team, and we got to a point with this agency that we couldn't take part in more pitches because we're winning every bit of business that we took part in.
Wow, that's a great place to be, isn't it?
It is, but because we couldn't grow a team fast enough.
Right, because there just weren't the people with the experience.
There weren't the people, and it was amazing. We were turning down pitches with international clients, saying, fantastic, we'd love to take part, but we're not going to be able to deliver, so we just have to hold back until we can get the people in place.
Right. So here you are. Your star is finally rising again. Then what happened?
Well, what happened was this was a regional network, and there were certain challenges in the regional network. I was working alongside a person that was heading up the advertising, the above-the-line advertising agency in Poland, and I had a certain different style of operation. There were certain frictions. But I was then headhunted to run basically the advertising group for, top 5 multinational. And this was a multinational that it was one of these agencies that it's like, well, you have that in your CV, you just open doors everywhere. It was,
right,
in a sense, one of the agencies to be in.
Okay.
And I was headhunted, and I then joined the company to run that, but that was actually running everything. That was above the line, below the line, setting up PR, a media agency. It was, and also taking over a company that was running losses from a previous ownership structure. So right, I had to turn the agency around, which was a huge challenge. And to be perfectly honest, it was a Pandora's box, because if I'd known really some of the things that I found out afterwards about the agency and what I'd have to do to turn it around, I don't think I ever would have taken that role.
Right.
But anyway, I got into it, and it was very difficult. I brought this creative director over as well. Started turning the agency around, and we actually started winning some business, which was really good. Moved to new offices, so there was a breath of fresh air for everybody. But I then got into sort of the real corporate world, because I was reporting to the regional head in Austria, yet our business was growing bigger than the Austrian business.
Oh,
and my natural contacts or connections were with the UK.
Right.
And I think I started being seen as a threat to my boss. And it got to a point where we met, and I said, well, look, I've got some changes to implement, and one of them was actually removing his number 2 that he sent me to help me, because things weren't working out at all, and he said, well, strategically he wants to move me into another role, and I felt that at that stage I think it's time to move on.
Right. Because
I was spending more time actually dealing with bureaucracy at sort of senior levels within the group than actually getting on with the business.
Yeah. So you've got bureaucracy, you've got the internal politics. Someone in Austria thinks you're a threat to them, and so they try to move you aside a little bit. I mean, how did that make you feel? I mean, because it is exhausting. I mean, I've been there,
Yeah.
and it is mentally exhausting. How did you feel, and how did you cope with it?
Well, it was exhausting, and actually at that stage, I just decided to leave the agency and to a large extent the industry, because I thought, well, if I get into another senior role in another network, what's going to be the difference? I'm still going to be involved in all these international politics. And, as somebody quite rightly said, they said, look, you've joined a gentleman's club, and unless you play according to gentleman's rules, you're going to be an outsider. And I'm not good on, sort of these bureaucratic rules. I mean, I'd rather just get on with the job,
right,
and do it. And I felt that, well, maybe I've sort of reached the level that I'm going to reach in this industry, and maybe it's time to move on and do something else. Was that a scary
thought to have?
It was a very scary thought, because I did have a young family, and it was like, what, I mean, it's not that I kind of stepped away from the industry entirely. I mean, I still was going to interviews, but then I did hear much the same sort of thing. And then I started looking at other alternatives.
So you went then into consultancy?
Yeah, I did a number of, I did some interim management roles, before I got into consultancy. But consultancy I got into because Poland joined the EU in 2004. And I could see as a real opportunity to help then foreign companies enter the market of Poland. And I packaged it as Poland and Central and Eastern Europe, because then I found a network of consultancies in the region that I could work with, so that I could actually sell us as a regional network.
Right. Okay. And how long had you been in Poland at that time?
10 years.
Okay, so you'd built up all your connections, you had a kind of network infrastructure already in place, and you were ready to go. So, okay, that was great.
Although I have to say that network infrastructure was in a different industry. So this here was starting from scratch.
Yeah.
In something else. I mean, now working, because when I was working in the advertising industry in Poland, okay, we had multinational clients, but we were delivering their services in Poland, and plus we had Polish clients.
Right.
Yeah, the model was actually looking for companies outside of the region who wanted to enter the region. And my first port of call was British companies, but we then went a lot further than just British companies. Okay,
so you used your experience, international. I mean, South Africa, the UK, Poland, and of course your clients were international. To kind of you brought it all together and started this consultancy. How did that go? What was the environment like? How successful was it? And so on.
I mean, it was we were providing mainly market entry services in the beginning, so we found we're competing quite a lot with chambers of commerce. So our pricing model had to be slightly aligned with them, although we were providing more than just that. We're doing sort of more in-depth research projects, and we got into sort of group projects as well. We're bringing groups of companies over around trade shows and helping them meet partners. We started working a lot with Turkey and the Turkish textile industry, which was actually absolutely fascinating. So we worked quite a lot in these group areas, but for me, the market entry process was, for each company, was actually slightly short-lived, because once you found a trade partner for that company, a distributor, it didn't matter what it was, an agency, distributor, our role sort of finished, because you now had an expert dealing with an expert, and we couldn't add much value beyond that.
Right. So there's no continuity, a very
So
short
there's
life
very little
cycle.
continuity.
Yeah.
So I started looking at, well, where could there be continuity? And we started looking at the converse of that. In other words, well, what if we actually looked at sourcing suppliers in the region for foreign companies?
Okay.
And our biggest client, became Walmart. So we were trained by Walmart Europe to source non-food products for retail in the UK, Asda, that they just bought. So they bought Asda, and we started actually these projects of sourcing non-food products from across Eastern Europe.
Yeah, it's really interesting because you flipped the business model around, didn't you? And you said, okay, well, we can't help companies come in, except for a short period of time. What about helping companies who want something from here? In other words, in a different direction. Now, that was quite an interesting change in the way of thinking about your business. How did it come about? Do you remember?
I think it's because we started being asked certain questions like that. I mean, our contacts were really with sales and marketing, but when some of our lead generation ended up with procurement, we had one or two questions saying, well, can you actually procure?
Right.
And it's like, well, we've never done it, but let's see what it entails.
So market driven.
Very much market driven. And what astonished me was that companies were prepared to pay more to reduce costs than generate incremental revenue.
Right.
I mean, for me, it was such an eye-opener, because we're putting together in the end proposals where, it was actually, first of all, a long-term project to find suppliers and manage these factories in Eastern Europe. And then we're signing long-term contracts for, once we found these factories, to actually oversee the procurement.
Right.
We're signing year, 2-year contracts, which, we never had anything like that on the market entry side.
Yeah.
And those really became very interesting bread and butter projects. When we had a number of them. And the business was doing pretty well. I mean, the market entry fell away a little bit because of the fact that we couldn't charge that much for each individual client, and they were really short-term projects.
Right.
So we adapted our service more to sourcing and managing suppliers, and it was a great business until the crash in the US.
Yeah, I mean, I think a point just worth bringing out for anyone watching this as an entrepreneur, listen to the market, be prepared to shift your model if necessary, but don't give up is what I'm trying to say. I suppose that's the lesson, Marek, that you are sharing. I think
that is, I think, the probably most fundamental lesson of everything that I've done. You just can't give up. The Lehman Brothers crash resulted in us having these long-term contracts where we were managing suppliers, and all of our clients said, okay, we're bringing that in-house now.
Wow.
And over 6 months, we lost every single client.
Oh dear.
Yeah, to zero.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it was like, what the hell do we do now? And it was a really tough situation, because that wave swept the world.
Yeah.
And a lot of companies went under. I got back into the advertising industry, but once again by creating something that was unique, that would allow me to get back in, because I'd been out of it for so long. And I developed a 3D. It was basically an online communication model, which was ahead of its time, because it was a model that allowed us to track interactions with content online, which was way before any of that was actually happening.
Right. Okay.
Which was great. It wasn't that easy to sell because it meant companies had to change their sales process. And I found that selling it to corporations meant that I had to speak to sort of like 3 decision makers within the organization, because nobody is prepared to actually make the decision.
Yes, the bureaucracy is frustrating sometimes when you're dealing with the large companies.
Well, exactly. So I was speaking to marketing, and marketing was saying, but hang on, we have to involve sales. And sales was saying, but this is also IT.
Yeah.
So I was like, banging around. And also the cost of launching this solution in Poland was actually no different to launching in the UK. And I realized, well, to be honest, I should be in the UK selling this. Because I could really ramp up the scale. But in Poland, the scale isn't going to be that high. And I brought in a number of major clients, but it was really tough going, because the solution was ahead of the curve.
Yeah, that's always a challenge. But now, of course, you've did you manage to patent it and?
Well, it was patented in the sense of it wasn't easy to copy. You'd have to actually invest that amount of time and money to actually build the application. I mean, it was basically a web-based application.
Right.
And it was before sort of web-based applications really coming into their own. It started happening at the back end of that, sort of around 2012, 13. Obviously, where social media was already starting to drive content, etc. But the interesting thing is, I then pitched for work for a job which was a project funded by the British government.
Yeah.
To help British companies enter the Polish market and deal with all their trade customers, and an online platform. And my model actually allowed for that, but plus all my experience of actually helping companies through the whole market entry process showed, allowed me to show in this tender that I could actually deliver all of that.
Right.
And in the end, it was down to my company and another company in terms of winning the pitch, winning the tender. The difference is that, my company was a handful of people, and the agency I was up against had 2,000 people. So it was an international, and they went with that agency. Mm-hmm. But Department of International Trade and through the British-Polish Chamber of Commerce decided to take me on to deliver that whole project for the food industry.
Oh, brilliant. Okay.
So, and I was given basically, a clean page, clean slate. And I said, well, look, if we're going to work with the British food industry, we have to work according to certain processes that I know actually will deliver the most. So I had my own team, and the whole delivery of helping British food and drink companies into the Polish market was outsourced to myself, my team. And we delivered a program over a period of something like 4 or 5 years. And we had, I think, 5 editions of this program, 4 or 5 editions of the program.
Okay.
And in the end, we worked with something like 70 different food and drink exporters from the UK. And about 50% of them we helped actually sell into the market. So about 50% of them actually achieved success in some shape or...
Right. So you're involved with the market entry as well?
This was the whole market entry. So this was actually the whole market entry process from A to Z.
Wow.
Plus we actually also delivered promotions.
And that all seemed to be working fine. Well, clearly it was. You did it for a number of cycles, but then you went into green seed. What happened?
Well, actually, before I went into green seed, I created because I was in the food industry, but that project ran to an end with the Department of British Trade, but I realized that in helping these British exporters into the market, once we actually introduced them to retailers, the buyers didn't want to deal with these companies individually.
Right.
So we managed everything on behalf of these buyers anyway. So the import, the logistics, etc. And on the back of that, I developed a trading model and set it up as a platform in the UK, which would allow us to export mixed pallets of product to buyers in Poland and Central and Eastern Europe.
Right. Which wasn't being done, certainly not in mixed pallets.
It wasn't being done. And then I brought onto that platform quite a lot of the companies I'd worked with through that project with the British government. And we started getting them into market. The only challenge was this was 2018, before Brexit, and already Brexit was being mooted in all sorts of different ways. And our meetings with retailers in Poland and also Czech Republic, Hungary, etc., quite a lot of them were saying, listen, get Brexit sorted and come back to us.
Right, so everything was being held.
Well, a lot was being held because they're saying, look, the last thing we want to do is for you to introduce products onto our shelves, and then Brexit comes along and means you have to take products off our shelves.
Right. Because of course the whole transportation and the customs procedures all need to change. So then Brexit came along. I mean, I can't imagine a bigger storm for you at that time.
Well, on day one of Brexit, I shut my business in the UK. Because the model of mixed pallets, which was the USP, ceased to exist because of all the paperwork, and transport companies were not prepared to take pallets from different suppliers into Europe. So unless you were taking a full truckload of products from one producer to one buyer, that model ceased to exist. And then suddenly,
because you only had to, with multiple suppliers, multiple buyers, you had multiple bureaucratic procedures, correct?
Correct. And logistics companies didn't want to deal with any of that because they already had experience of one supplier getting the paperwork wrong and the entire truck being turned around and going back.
Right.
And if you've got perishable goods, that's a real issue.
Right. So here's something outside your control, completely outside your control.
Yeah.
And it's hammering your business. You closed it down in the UK. So again, you need to pivot. So what happens then?
Well, it was now looking at what could we do around that. And there are two things that we did. One was that we developed, I set up a subsidiary in Poland, and I developed a model that allowed us as an export in the UK to take title of goods for all the products in the UK and sell them to my subsidiary in Poland, which meant that it was one transaction. So it was one supplier to one buyer, and then transport companies were prepared to deal with it.
Right. So again, an innovation, a different way of thinking about the challenge to get around the barriers that Brexit had put in place.
And we were the first ones to actually bring in mixed trucks of food products from the UK. But to be honest, it was such a nightmare in doing that. It took us 3 months to find. We didn't actually in the end find customs clearance in Poland because nobody wanted to deal with us.
Yeah.
So we had to go to France, which already had some experience of bringing products into Europe from the UK. so we could clear there and then bring it into Poland. It was just the time and the paperwork meant that the business really wasn't profitable. We couldn't actually make it scalable, although we had all sorts of attempts. And I started once again looking at the converse of that. It's like, well, we've worked with suppliers and we manage suppliers across the region. Why don't we actually package now contract manufacturing
Right.
in Europe?
Which means having stuff manufactured in Poland on behalf of a client outside
or
Poland.
Czech Republic or Slovakia.
Oh, okay. For a client outside those countries.
Outside of Europe.
Outside of Europe. Okay.
And Europe and UK was now outside of Europe.
Okay.
So we worked with, in fact, in that model we worked, and I already had started. I made connections with Green Seed, and already started working with them sort of as an associate. And we did a project with contract manufacturing with a UK client. And I found two UK clients, previous clients, which were prepared to actually, one was prepared to produce in Poland, the other one was prepared to pack in Poland, for all those reasons. And with that model, I went to a local, venture capital fund. I mean, it was actually really a fund that works with startups, so it was really low-level investment. And they funded this model on the basis that obviously we'd be able to bring in more companies into Central and Eastern Europe that would want to then manufacture here, so we could then distribute them without any issues across Europe.
Right.
And the advantages really were lower cost production and distribution across Europe with no barriers.
Right, and of course, Poland's geographical location in the center of Europe is pretty helpful as well.
Yeah. But then you see the war came.
Before that.
Well, actually, before that, COVID came. Yeah.
Good Lord.
Oh, yeah, no, sorry.
One thing after another. How could you forget COVID, Marek?
COVID came, and the war came in Ukraine, which together hit supply chains to such a degree, and energy costs, and where production in this region actually made no sense because there weren't any cost savings.
Right.
But we already had these two projects. Also, the markets sort of plummeted, and bringing in any new products from outside, buyers were saying, forget it. We're just dealing with the products we have on shelf. We have to ride out the storm. We don't know when the storm's going to go. So this was COVID and then the war. So it was like, two storms at a pretty similar time, one following the other.
They certainly were.
So discussions with buyers around introducing new products from the West, which was actually the Green Seed model, it was, people were just shrugging their shoulders. And also my contract manufacturing projects had sort of fallen over as well, because, we actually managed to at least sell all the stock, or practically all the stock that we produced. But, then manufacturing again with those clients, it wasn't the right time. And in fact, contract manufacturing then was a bit of a question mark anyway. I mean, one example, we had this project with a US company where the US company was saying, well, we want fixed prices for, ingredients, fixed prices for 12 months. And the company that we found that was actually, that in the end manufactured their products in Poland, was saying, we'll give you a guarantee for 3 months because prices are all over the place right now, and you're not going to get a guarantee for longer than 3 months from anybody.
Right.
I mean, so these were all the challenges, it was a very difficult time, and coming out of that sort of now in the last year, more or less, where very sadly the war has settled down in the sense that it's more predictable, which is just so sad to say.
Yes, yes, it is. It is a tragedy.
But for business, it has become more predictable, which means that a combination of market entry and contract manufacturing projects, I'm now slowly managing to sort of get into place.
Right,
and
slowly
also,
coming back.
and Poland has become a bit more of an attractive destination for foreign companies wanting to sell in Europe.
Despite being next door to Ukraine, where the war is raging. Of course, it's on the other side of Ukraine, so it's slightly safer. But yes, that's absolutely. So I mean, my goodness, what a story that is, Marek. I mean, you've had some ups and you've certainly had lots of downs, and many of those are coming along, completely unexpected. You talk about Lehman Brothers, you talk about the recession, you talk about COVID, you talk about Brexit, and then of course the war, one after the other over the last 10 years, something like that. What is it that has allowed you to stay resilient through all of this and still keep creating?
I generally have a positive attitude. My wife always says that, look at a glass half full, but maybe more half full than it should be. But that attitude has allowed me to look at a silver lining, basically, in practically every downturn. So it has allowed me to turn things around into a positive, although maybe not immediately, but at least start looking for those solutions, because the alternative is actually just sinking.
Just giving up and drowning.
It's just giving up, and that was one aspect, and the other one was literally just never give up.
Yeah.
If you have that attitude, I think never give up, you will achieve success somewhere along the way. And I completely agree with you, Marek, because no matter how dark things may get at times, we need to remember that there are things that we're learning here that we can make use of to pull ourselves out of it. And also it's a question of how you look at things. I mean, I was reading somewhere recently that there were more millionaires made in the United States during the 1930s depression than at any other time in American history, which tells me that they saw something that not everyone saw. They saw that silver lining, which they managed to leverage to create something. And it sounds to me, Marek, that you're doing very much the same thing. It's, yes, you get hit with something, but what can we do? What can we learn from this experience and process and drive on through? And I think that's very powerful advice for all entrepreneurs and consultants going forward. So thank you so much, Marek, for taking the time out. We've shared some valuable lessons, I think, for especially the younger entrepreneurs who may be at the beginning of their journey and they're getting hit with, they're getting buffeted by different storms. And I think you can, what you just shared here today is inspirational to people like that. So thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me.
It's a pleasure, as always. See you at the restaurant next time. Cheers, mate.
Thank you. Indeed.
Bye.
Bye-bye.